What's good, YouTube? Chris is So Pro here, coming at you with another new segment, and this one is about confusing cards and clearing them up, how they work completely. I know that even I've had some trouble with these cards, and I have a really good understanding of the game and rulings and how they work. And I have given a few bad rulings on this specific card, so I just wanted to make this video and kind of show different confusing cards. Like, the first one I wanted to talk about is Appropriate. Now, Appropriate says, you can activate this card when your opponent draws a card outside of his or her draw phase. Draw 2 cards from your deck. Now, this can be extremely confusing as to whether or not you can activate this. Now, this isn't a card like Ultimate Offering where you can just, at least with current rulings and current errata, this isn't a card that you can just flip up at any time you want and then draw whenever your opponent draws. Basically, you have to wait until your opponent draws a card through a card effect, and then go, okay, you've drawn a card, activate Appropriate. Now, one of the big confusing things about this card through that activation method is that they don't know whether or not they can draw off of the activation, like when it is initially flipped face up, and the answer is no. The comparison that we can use to find this ruling to be true is Max C. You can't just go, okay, since you've already special summoned your Cyber Dragon, I'm going to drop my Max C and draw a card. The summon's already successful. In this case, the draw that you activate this card off of has already been done, so the continuous effect of Appropriate cannot be activated to draw 2 cards. I actually don't think that is the most current errata on it. I will look that up really quick and read it to y'all. The newest errata comes from Retro Pack 2 and goes, activate only when your opponent draws a card except during their draw phase. Draw 2 cards. Now, the text is still extremely confusing, and I really still want to say that you can draw 2 cards off the first one just because it only says activate when your opponent draws cards, and then, you draw 2 cards. It doesn't make any sense. The card is extremely confusing, and it needs to be completely reworded like Prohibition was, where Prohibition used to have extremely confusing text, and now it completely states from the Machina Mayhem structure deck, says cards with that name and their effects cannot be used. Cards on the field before this card was activated are not affected, including face down cards. That was an extremely confusing card that got cleared up completely. Appropriate, even with its newest errata in Retro Pack 2, is still extremely confusing. But basically, in complete sense, the current ruling on this card is that you can only activate it when your opponent draws cards. Like, say, you activate Dark World Dealings, and then your opponent draws a card. Then you flip up Appropriate. Appropriate's now face up on the field, but you cannot draw the 2 cards off of that Dark World Dealing. Say you activate another Dark World Dealings after that. Then Appropriate will activate, and you are able to draw cards after that. I mean, with the current, even the ruling page on the Wikia website, you can go look it up. I'll have a link down in the description. The current ruling page is still really confusing and doesn't show a lot of things about it because most of it's just mentions in other rulings, and then there's previously official rulings say picking up doesn't count as drawing, like with Morphing Draw number 2. If you have 2 face-up Appropriate, you will draw 4 cards, and Appropriate can only be activated if the last effect on the chain ends with your opponent drawing cards outside of their draw phase, which means it's like Light Pulsar Dragon to where it misses the timing. So, like I said, none of these rulings make sense, and I think they will make more sense if Appropriate is errataed, and it's just one of those cards that's starting to see a little more play because of Jarrell Winston going to Worlds with Exodia and just making Exodia decks more popular with different kinds of draw cards that you can tech into the deck and find out what's up with that. Alright, rate, comment, subscribe, guys, and peace out. Look forward to more of these segments sometime in the near future.